Hello everyone and welcome to the YouTube channel of Being ACCA. This is Tushita Gupta, ACCA affiliate, and in this video we are going to be continuing with the AFM pre-September 2023 mock. This is the last question, question number 3 of this mock, and the name of the company is Wecathlon Company. Let's get started. First of all, like I always do, I am copy pasting the requirements into my word processor. So copying all my requirements, and then I'm pasting it to my word processor so that I do not have to come back to this exhibit once again. So I have pasted all of my requirements in one place now. Right. So I have part B, part C, and then I have part D also. Right. So part D is our last part. It has two subparts in itself, and then we are, mentioned about the professional marks that will be awarded, and it is 5 marks for this question. So let's get started. First of all, we have to calculate the NPV of the project. Then we have to calculate and comment on what percentage fall in selling price would need to occur before the NPV falls to 0. So that means we have to calculate the sensitivity to selling price. Now the second part is appropriate capital rationing model based on investment limits that maximize the NPV for department sports. Finding a solution is not required, so we just have to formulate the model. Now B part is assume the output in exhibit 3 is produced when the capital rationing model in part A is solved. Explain the figures produced in each out of the 3 output categories. So whatever we will formulate in this part A2, that has been solved in exhibit 3, and we have to explain what that means. Okay, now going to part C, provide a brief response to the managing director's opinions by first of all explaining why the company may want to impose capital rationing on its departments. This is for 2 marks. And then explaining the features of capital investment monitoring system and discussing the benefits of maintaining such a system. Then we have explained the different methods of dealing with the capital rationing problem in the circumstances where capital is rationed in a single period and when capital is rationed in several periods. So these are, our few requirements that are asked from this question. Now let's have a look at the first exhibit. Let me adjust it so that we have space for all the exhibits on the screen. Right. So this is exhibit 1. This is an introduction to Wecathlon company. So adjusting the size, yes. So this is a small exhibit. Wecathlon company is a large listed company with many autonomous departments operating as investment centers. It sets investment limits for each department based on a 3-year cycle. Projects selected by departments would have to fall within the investment limits set for each of the 3 years. All departments would be required to maintain a capital investment monitoring system and report on their findings annually to Wecathlon company's boards of directors. So the sports department is considering the following 5 investment projects with 3 years of initial investment expenditure followed by several years of positive cash inflows. Now you can see that there are investments that are needed for 3 years, and then NPV will then we will have positive inflows coming in to us. Then the department's initial investment expenditure limits are 9 million, 6 million and 5 million for years 1, 2 and 3 respectively. None of the projects can be deferred and all projects can be scaled down but not scaled up. So that means we can partially take up projects but not, scale these values up. So whatever is the maximum is the, whatever is the given, that is the maximum. We can go for down but not up. So these are our values given to us. And then we have first requirement is calculate the NPV of project 05. So let's look at project 05 cash flows. So we have the project's annual cash flows commence at the end of year 4 and last for a period of 15 years. The project generates annual sales of 300,000 units at a selling price of $14 per unit and incurs total annual relevant costs of $3.23 million. Although the costs and units sold of the project can be predicted with a fair degree of uncertainty, there is considerable uncertainty about the unit selling price. The department uses a required rate of return for 11% of the projects. Inflation can be ignored. Sports department's managing director is of the opinion that all projects which return a positive NPV should be accepted and does not understand the reasons why Wecathlon company imposes capital rationing on its departments. Furthermore, she is not sure why maintaining a capital investment monitoring system will be beneficial to the company. So again, this pertains to some of the theoretical aspects, the discursive aspects that we have to answer over here. So this is about exhibit about the project 05, and let's open our spreadsheet. We have to calculate the NPV of project 5 and also calculate and comment on what percentage of the selling price would need to fall so that the NPV falls to 0. So I am copy pasting this as well and to my spreadsheet now. So I have my spreadsheet open now. I can say that this is part A and this is part I of part A. So I have pasted my requirement over here, NPV of project 05 and percentage fall would need to occur before the NPV falls to 0. So this is how I can start doing my question. Now, first of all, we were given information about the cash flows also. So the sales revenue that we have, so all of this is given in annual terms to us. So the selling price is given to us as $14. So 14 multiplied by 300,000 units. So this gives me a revenue of $4.2 million. And my costs are also given in annual terms. And the cost that I have given to me is $3.23 million. So I have input this also. Now I can see that my annual cash flows will be nothing but the difference between the revenue and the cost. So this minus this, I have my annual cash flows. Now let's have a look at the NPV. We have our annual cash flows now, right? So regarding NPV, we can put the years over here. So years 0, 1, 2, 3, and then it is said that at the end of year 4 we will start to receive our cash flows and we will receive them for 15 years. So that means 15 years from the end of year 4 will have me till 18 years. So that means 4 to 18 years I will have these many cash flows. Now let's have a look at the, how much is my cash flows going to be in all of these years. So let us close this exhibit now. Let us remember that the required rate of return is 11%. I can write that over here also. Discount rate is 11%, and then we can find out our NPV. Now with regards to project 05, we have the cash outflows given to us year 1. This means immediately. So in the year 0 we are going to be paying $2.5 million. So I'm putting it as a negative negative figure which signifies outflow. So $2.5 million. Then I have $12 million, sorry, $1.2 million, right? And then I have $1.4 million. So these are all about my outflows. Then I have my inflows coming in from year 4 onwards. That means in year 3 I have nothing at all. So now let's write our discount factors at the rate of 11%. So 11%. So with this I have 1 divided by, I can write 1 plus 11% and then link it to the year also. So with this I can, if I drag this down, I will have my discount factors. Let me check if right, we forgot to fix the cell over here. So if we fix it, we will get the right answer. So I'm fixing cell B18, and now I will drag this down. Right, so with this I have my discount factors with me. So these are my discounted cash flows in this column. So these are DCF, and I can say this multiplied by this is my discounted cash flow. Similarly, I can drag this down. So I have my discounted cash flows as well. Now, for year 4 to 18, what we will have to do is we will have to find out we already have the cash flows with us. We calculated this, right? These are going to be our inflows. So now we have to work out the discount factor for this 4 to 18 year time period. So I can open my formula sheet. I do have my discount factors given to me. Right, so going to my annuity table, I have to look for 11% discount rates, and we do not have the discount, the annuity factors given beyond 15 years. So that is why we will have to work out on this own that how much will be the factor that we are going to be using. So we do have the formula given to us over here. So this is the formula that we can use to find out this factor. So first of all, I will take 1 minus 1 plus R is 11%. 11%. Then I can raise it to the power of minus n, which is n is the number of years, so minus 18. And then I can divide this entire figure by R, which is again 11%. So this is the annuity factor that I will be getting for my 18th year. Now from this figure, what I need to do is I need to subtract the annuity till the 4th year. So what I will do is I will again go to the annuity table for 11%. Then I will see that how much is the thing that I have to remove from here. So this I have to remove, now this is the complete figure till the 18 years, whereas my annuity only starts from this amount of time, 4 years, right? So it starts after 4 years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the annuity factor from 4 years. So this is 3.102. Rather, I will subtract it for 3 years, because from 4 years I am going to get these cash flows in. So this comes out to be my discount factor. Now if I drag the formula down below, I will have my uh, present values for the cash flows, also the annual revenue that I'm going to generate. So I can copy paste the formula, and with this I have my values. Now even if this answer varies, because we have manually calculated this, both of the calculations will be marked correct if you are using the formula sheet, or if you are using the calculator to find these values out. Both of these will be marked correct. So we have now we have all the values with us, so we can find out the NPV will be nothing but the sum of all these the discounted values that we have obtained. So I can just use the sum formula and add all of these up. So I do have my NPV over here. I can format this to currency so that it looks neater, and I might have to expand my column over here. Right. So I have a positive NPV of $382,000. So roughly, if I round this off, I will have $383,000. So with this, we are through with the NPV calculation. Now we are supposed to calculate the sensitivity, right? So for sensitivity, we have to see that NPV will fall to zero when the cash flows will be equal to how much we are spending out in terms of discounted cash flows. So if NPV is to fall to zero, the PV of the project's cash flows, PV of project's cash flows should be, and I will show this, that this will be the sum of, okay, I can, drag this down below so that it's visible in one cell itself. Right. So I can expand this a little bit, should be, and I can say that it should be the sum of these three figures. So with this, I have my, how much should be the NPV if I want to obtain this, NPV to fall to 0. So I can also put a negative sign over here. So if my PV of project's cash flows will be this much, then I will have a 0 NPV. So by how much does this need to reduce? We can find that out how. So we can see that annual cash flows need to reduce to how much? Let's find that out. Need to reduce to this amount divided by the annuity factor which we had worked out earlier. So that was 7.191 divided by 7.191, and this will be multiplied by 1.11 raised to the power minus 3, because we have to bring it to the present value terms. So with this we will have our answer, and I think we will also get the same answer if we work this out using this discount factor over here, right? So we roughly get the same answer using both the methods. So I'm just showing you how this discount factor could have also been calculated. So this is the working, right? Now let's see how much will the sales revenue reduce. So sales revenue would reduce to, so this will be this amount plus your how much will be the costs. These were your costs. So if the sales revenue reduces by this figure over here, then let's see what will your selling price fall to. So selling price will be the sales revenue divided by your number of units. So this divided by number of units that we had was given to us as 300,000 units. So with this we have our selling price. So if I round this off to 2 decimal places, I will have 13.76 as my selling price. Now I can find out how much is the percentage fall. So percentage fall. Earlier our selling price was 14, and now it will be 13.76. So 14 minus 13.76 divided by 14, and with this I will see how much is my percentage fall that will cause the NPV to fall to 0. So if I just convert this to percentage, yeah, so this will be 1.73%. So this means that the demand is very sensitive. Even if there is a change in selling price by just a minor 1.73%, then your NPV can fall to 0 or negative, which will make the project not worthwhile. So I can write my answer over here. The NPV of the project is dollar, how much was it? I think 383,000. Yes, 383,000 roughly we can say. $383,000. The a percentage fall of 1.73% will lead a percentage fall of 1.73% in the selling price would make the NPV fall to nil or negative. This will make the project not worthwhile. right? So with this we finish the part A, first part. Then let's move on to the second part, in which we have to formulate the capital rationing model based on the investment limits that maximizes the net present value of the department sports. Finding the solution is again not required. So what I can say over here is, first of all, let's set the variables. So let the investment in projects be as follows. So this is our we are setting the variables over here. So for y1, let it be the investment in project 1, investment in project 01. And now again, similarly, I can do this for all 5 of the projects. I can simply copy paste this over here, and this will save me time. So y2 equals to investment in project 02, y3 equals to investment in project 03, y4 equals to investment in project 04, and then y5 equals to investment in project 5. And then yes, these are all the projects that we have. So with this I have set all of my variables. Now let's have a look at our objective function. So what is our objective function? Objective is to maximize. So let's have a look at the returns that we are earning from them. So these are the NPVs. So we have to maximize the NPV, right? So for we can take it in thousands terms. So 464 y1 plus 244 y2 plus how much is the NPV for the third one? 352 y3 plus 383 y4, and then for y5 it is not given, we just found that out, and that was 383 y5. So this is our objective function. And now let's have a look at our constraints. So our constraints are nothing but the how much capital has been rationed to us for each of these years. So for year 1 I have my investment constraint that it should not exceed in the first year it is $9 million. So I will say since all of this is in thousand terms, so it becomes 9,000. I'm just removing 3 zeros, right? So for the year 1 I have let's take the year 1 values for all each of these. So this is 4,000 y1 plus my for project 2 the initial is 800, so 800 y2, and then plus 3200 y3, and then for project 4 the same is 3900, so 3900 y4 and plus 2500 y5. So this is how I have my the initial investment for year 1 that we need, and this should be lesser than or equal to 9,000. So this becomes my constraint for year 1. Now similarly I am going to do this for year 2 and 3 also, and then we'll place our non-negativity constraints because investments cannot be negative, so they will be greater than or equal to 0. So first of all I am putting this for year 2. So let me just copy this from here, and I will change the value that is given to me. So for year 2 it is mentioned 6 million, so I will say 6,000. And then similarly for year 3 also I will do that, year 3, and the value that is given for year 3 is 5,000. So I will now carry on with the same procedure as I did for year 1. So for year 2 it is 1100 for project 1, so 1100 y1 plus for this project 02 it is 2800 y2 plus I have 3562 for my y3, and then I have for the project 4 it is nil, so I will say 0 y4, and then I will say it is 1200 for project 5, so 1200 y 5. So with this I have framed my equation for year 2, and this should be lesser than or equal to 6000, because that is the maximum amount of investment that we can be making in year 2. So now similarly carrying out this procedure for year 3 also, so this becomes 2400 y1 plus 3200 y2 plus, again taking it is 0 for project 3, so 0 y3 plus, going to the next one I have 200, so 200 y4, and then for the y5 I have it as 1400, so 1400 y5. So with this I have framed my equation for the third year also, and this should be again the same sign, lesser than or equal to the constraint that we have, which is 5000. So with this we have worked out the investment constraints, and now let's have a look at our non-negativity constraints. Non-negativity constraints, and these will be y1 comma y2 comma y3 comma y4 comma y5 will always be greater than or equal to 0, because investment cannot be negative. Now with this we have finished part A in entirety. Now let's move on to part B. Assume the output in exhibit 3. So I have my exhibit 3 open right in front of you here, and we have to assume that this is the output that is produced when the capital rationing model in part A is solved. Explain the figures produced in each of the 3 output categories. So there are 3 categories. This is the total final value, these are the adjustable final values, and these are the constraints utilized. So let's explain all of this one by one. So first of all I will explain my category 1, and this is about the total final value. So what will I write with respect to this? How can this be explained? This is the maximum NPV that can be earned within the 3-year constraints of capital expenditure by undertaking whole, part, or none of the 5 projects. This amount is less than the total NPV of all 5 projects if there were no constraints. Obviously, if we did not have any investment constraints, we could have undertaken all of these projects. So definitely the total final value is lesser than how much we could have obtained had we invested in all of the 5 projects if there were no constraints given to us. Now, how can we explain the category 2? Category 2 talks about the adjusted final values. So if I just put this header over here, so it is always better to explain your answer in headers so that it becomes easier for the examiner to also check your copy. So for category 2, how can we explain? So these are the proportions of the projects undertaken within the constraints to maximize the NPV. So it is in these proportions that we will be undertaking these projects to maximize our NPV. Now in this case, what does this mean? Project 05 will be taken fully, project 4 will not be taken at all, and then project 3 will be taken 73.2%, project 2 will be taken 40.7%, and project 1 will be taken 95.8%. So these are the proportions in which we will be undertaking our projects. Now what does category 3 talk about? Category 3 says about the constraints that have been utilized. So let me put category 3 over here. So category 3. Now this talks about the constraints utilized as well as the slack. So this tells you that to what extent the constraint limits are used and whether any investment funds will remain unused. So that means in year 1 you are using the entire $9 million and there is no money that will be left. And then again in year 2 also we had 6 million itself and we are using this in fully, and then there is no slack left. That means that there is no additional money that will remain. And then in year 3 also we did have only $5 million, and we are using all of that, and there will be no slack that is left with us, that is, no funds will remain unutilized. So this is how you can explain all the three categories that are given to you. Now let's move to part C. Part C talks about, we have to give a brief response explaining why Wecathlon company may want to impose capital rationing on its departments. Now, let's see what are the reasons why a company can impose capital rationing. So, first of all, if you briefly explain over here what capital rationing means, that would be a good way to start your answer. So, capital rationing. Let me briefly tell you what capital rationing means. It is when you are providing limited capital to invest in potential projects. So, usually what you do is, all the projects that give you positive NPV will be accepted because they add to the shareholders' wealth. Now, in this case, any project that gives you an NPV above 11%, that gives you a return of more than 11%, you will accept that. However, Wecathlon company has a soft capital rationing model. Why? Because the capital limits have been set by the management themselves. It is not that they are not able to obtain the funding, it is not hard capital rationing, and due to the management imposing such limitations, that is why this will be called as soft capital rationing. So there can be reasons why this rationing has been put in place. So there may be capital budget limits placed by the company on the amounts that it wants to borrow or that it can borrow. So the company has limits on how much it can borrow and how much it wants to borrow. Can borrow and wants to borrow. So this can be first reason why they could have implemented this capital rationing in their departments. Now another reason can be that they do have a limitation from being able to fund from the external sources. So another reason can be the company is facing issues in raising capital externally, like bank loans. So if they have, if they are facing difficulty in raising capital externally, then also they can, impose restrictions on departments, and this will be a case of hard capital rationing, because now it is pushed by external factors that you are, having a limited capital with you. So this is how you can explain part C, first part. And then let's move on to the second part of part C, explaining the features of a capital investment monitoring system and discussing the benefits of maintaining such a system. So what can be the features of the capital investment monitoring system? Now again, if you start your answer by telling a little bit about what a capital investment monitoring system is, it would be a good way to start your answer. So this system basically monitors how an investment project is progressing once it has been implemented. So whatever you had planned and whatever you had budgeted, so this system will measure whether or not you are, going according to how much you have planned. Now it also sets up contingency plans for dealing with the risks that are identified by this system. So these are a few features. It will consider risks. It will tell you contingency plans, and it will also, the first basic feature is that it monitors whether you are going according to the budgets or the plan or not. So these are the few features that you could tell about the CIMS. And then what are the benefits of implementing? So you also have to link it to the scenario as well. So the benefits of implementing CIMS to Wecathlon company is that whenever they can ensure that the project meets what is expected of it in terms of the revenues and expenses, also that the project is completed on time, and risk factors that have been identified remain valid. So a critical path of linked activities which make up the project will be identified. Departments undertaking the project will be proactive rather than reactive towards the management of risk. Now what does this mean? This means that the management will instead of waiting for the bad things to happen, they will be on the lookout in advance. They will see that okay, this is something that is about to happen, so instead of stopping it when it has already happened, they will try to stop it before the thing has already happened. So this is how CIMS will be helpful, and this will also be helpful because they can use this as a communication device between the managers charged and those who are managing the project, right? So finally, CIMS would be able to reassess and change the assumptions made of the project if the external environment warrants it. So again, risk management can be something that can really be helped with this system. Now moving on to the last part, explain the different methods of dealing with a capital rationing problem in circumstances where capital is rationed in a single period and then capital is rationed in several periods. So with regards to this, first of all, we have to see that shareholder wealth is maximized if a company undertakes all possible positive NPV projects. It is with capital rationing when we have insufficient funds to do this. So there are possibilities that you are facing a shortage of funds only for a single time period, and there is also a possibility that you are in a difficulty and you will be short of funds even in the longer term for several periods. So now in a single capital rationing problem, what you can do is you can rank the projects according to the profitability index, which is the NPV divided by the capital investment needed. So this problem can be solved by ranking based on profitability index. Ranking what? Ranking the projects. So we will rank the projects based on our profitability index. So we can also mention that how profitability index is calculated. So profitability index is nothing but the NPV divided by the investment outlay in that specific project. So that will tell you how much is the NPV earned for every dollar that you have invested. So this will tell you that okay, after investing your money into this, you are earning the most per dollar through which project, and then you can select that project. The limited amount of capital available will then be allocated to those projects with the highest profitability index in order to generate the highest NPV per unit of investment or per dollar of investment. Now, how can this problem be solved when capital is rationed in several periods? Now, this problem, if we are facing for several periods, this cannot be any longer solved with profitability index. Now, what we can do is this method can only deal with one limiting factor, which is one period of shortage. But when there are a number of limiting factors, that means a number of periods of shortage, we will have to use the linear programming model, which we have just used above, because we are facing this for multiple periods, right? It was given that for 3 years we have a limited amount of money, and that is how a linear programming model will help us. So linear programming models. So this is the solution to uh, solving the problem when you have capital rationing in several periods. So the solution of the linear programming model will give you the combination of which projects you should choose to maximize your NPV. Now with this, we have come to an end to this question and also the AFM pre-September 2023 mock. I hope that this video was helpful. Please feel free to ask any of your queries in the comments down below. You can even message us on our Instagram page, which is @BeingACCA. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for the next one.